Conservatives and the wealthy want you to revile Karl Marx and his analysis of society. They want you to shudder at the very mention of the word Marxism. They think that that's a dirty word. Why is this so? Why is it so threatening to them? We can either do one of two things. We can either accept them at their word and believe that this opinion of theirs flows out of some sort of genuine concern for the public welfare, or we might look to other motivations. So before you consider joining up with the teabaggers, my dear listeners, I hope you'll take a little bit of time to learn about Marxism from Marx with a little bit of help from your pal, Comrade Bananahead. So what exactly is Marxism anyway? Marxism is a sociological and philosophical system which analyzes the human condition by looking at humanity's relationship to its environment, which is to say the way it produces the prerequisite material goods and services needed to sustain it. Marxism primarily addresses the question of society's wealth, which is to say the labor and resources which go into producing a society's necessities and amenities. This, Marx held, was central to an analysis of human development. The currently predominant system of capitalism, also known as the free market system, was born from the corpse of feudalism. Within the course of human civilization, we've seen a continual advancement of the material means of production. That is to say, that society's ability to produce its necessities and amenities can be shown to be on an upward trajectory. As time goes on, we're able to produce more stuff. The predominant socio-political order, i.e. despotism, monarchy, theocracy, etc., lags behind and doesn't always correspond to society's level of economic development, so occasionally a rapid upheaval occurs. Human history has seen a number of different historical stages, each chiefly characterized by its mode of production. Marx defines the phrase mode of production as a historically specific form of organizing labor in the given means of production, which is constituted of two components. One, the forces or means of production, the instruments and tools used in the production of material goods, as well as persons capable of using these tools and instruments by virtue of experience and training. And two, the relations of production, the relations established between people as they acquire and use the forces of production in the production of material goods. This process is driven by the antagonism between the socio-economic classes involved. When I speak to you of class, I'm not referring to, say, for instance, a third-period math class with teachers and students, but rather a, quote, social stratum sharing basic economic, political, or cultural characteristics and having the same social position, end quote. And I got that quote straight from dictionary.com in case you want to go and look it up. So, in each historical mode of production, there were and are social classes defined by the role they play in the relations of production. These factions or classes each have their own set of interests and outlooks, which reflect those interests. For each faction there is an underlying set of shared experiences, giving rise to what Marx described as class consciousness. Thus, the view each class holds regarding government, morality, and religion is an outgrowth of its shared experiences and interests. In each historical mode of production, the ascendant class proclaims that which is in their own interests to be universally beneficial, thus explaining why some members of subordinate classes hold ideas which are in contradiction to their own interests. These classes have interests which are antagonistic to one another, that is to say that they hold interests which are irreconcilable to one another, sort of like what you see on some of these divorce papers for all these celebrity couples. So the classes involved have irreconcilable differences, and this process is referred to as the class struggle, or rather I should say this phenomenon of irreconcilable differences is referred to as the class struggle, and it's the engine driving history. Under capitalism, the two major socio-economic classes are the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. The bourgeoisie is the class which owns the means of production, e.g. the factories, machines, and tools used to produce wealth, along with fertile lands and minerals in the ground. The bourgeoisie owns society's productive assets, or the stuff used to make more stuff. The proletariat, on the other hand, is the class which owns none of society's productive assets, except their own labor power, which they sell to the bourgeoisie to make a living. These two classes have interests which are antithetical to one another. The conflict between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, in which exploiters and exploited clash, is the current stage of the class struggle. Under capitalism, the wealth produced by the proletariat is expropriated by the bourgeoisie. That is to say that all of society's stuff is made by workers, but is owned by the bourgeoisie, which is then sold back to the workers. The profits made by the bourgeoisie, or owning class, is derived from the surplus value produced by the proletariat. The surplus value is the part of the value of a commodity that exceeds the cost of labor. So here's an example of surplus value from the Wikipedia page on that subject. Imagine a worker who is hired for an hour and paid $10. Once in the capitalist's employ, the capitalist can have him operate a bootmaking machine using which the worker produces $10 worth of work every 15 minutes. Every hour, the capitalist receives $40 worth of work and only pays the worker $10, capturing the remaining $30, which, after deduction of costs, the leather, depreciation of the machine, etc., leaves a residual, i.e. surplus value or profit, end quote. So, we can surmise that surplus value is the value produced by workers minus the cost of their labor, minus the cost of overhead such as rent, insurance, materials, or wear and tear on equipment, which is then pocketed by the capitalist. It's the basis of all profit derived from the expropriation of value produced by the working class, and the reason they're so much richer than everyone else. We work and they earn the profits. Marxists today argue that capitalism had a historical role to play, but that role is now finished. It battled and eventually defeated the old feudal aristocracy. Under the reign of the bourgeoisie, the meager productive forces bequeathed to it by feudalism were increased on a massive scale. It has globalized itself, produced gargantuan quantities of wealth, and created the proletariat, but it has no more progress to bring humankind, only backwardness. Socialism, on the other hand, is what you describe a society in which the proletariat has seized state power, smashed capitalist relations, and placed the means of production under public control. Marx argued that socialism is the next stage of human development, but that this is only a transitional period towards the realization of a communist society, which Marx defines as a stateless, classless social order. As Marx explained in the Critique of the Gotha program, quote, "Between capitalist and communist society lies the period of the revolutionary transformation of the one into the other. Corresponding to this is also a political transition period in which the state can be nothing but the revolutionary dictatorship of the proletariat." Okay, so Marx here uses the word dictatorship, which may be confusing to some people because when we think of dictatorship or dictators, we usually think about Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini. But in order to understand how Marx is using the term, we have to understand how Marx conceives of the institution known as the state. So Marx believed that all states were and are coercive instruments used by a society's dominant class to impose its rule upon the subordinate classes. So, a socialist state would therefore be a coercive instrument of proletarian rule, because our current state is a bourgeois dictatorship, in the sense that it's a coercive instrument of bourgeois rule, but socialism would be a coercive instrument of proletarian rule. And furthermore, once there are no more social classes, the need for a coercive apparatus of rule will be gone, and the state as an institution will be abolished. And this process will bring about the sort of communism Marx wrote about, but it will first require the globalization of socialism. In conclusion, Marx offers us a historical analysis that provides us with the real reasons events unfolded and unfold the way they did and do, an analysis of the current predominant system that cuts right into its very core, and the historical sociological process that will be the undoing of that system. We would do well to study his ideas, use them to further our understanding, and put them to work in advancing the human condition. Don't just take my word for it, though. There are plenty of avenues through which to further your studies of Marxism. Marxian class analysis here on the internet. A good starting point is the online archive of writings by Marxist authors, Marxists.org. That's Marxists.org. And also, if you have a moment, please be sure to check out my other videos. I have a lot of other good ones and some upcoming ones that hopefully will be of some use to you. Anyway, this is your pal, Comrade Banana Head, signing out.
Thank you for your attention. This has been a Comrade Banana Head production.